what happens when reality becomes optional? The metaverse promises infinite worlds where we can be anyone, do anything, and escape the limitations of physical existence. But as the boundaries between virtual and real begin to blur, are we creating humanity's next great frontier or the ultimate digital prison? Welcome to Temporally Scripted. I'm Jack Austin with Adam Garcia, and today we're exploring virtual worlds' real consequences, the metaverse between utopia and dystopia. We're going to examine whether immersive digital reality will liberate human potential or trap us in a synthetic addiction. Is unlimited creativity, perfect social connection, and experiences that transcend physical limitations a good thing for us and our primitive monkey brains? We're also going to look at the darker possibilities like digital escapism, corporate control of virtual reality, and the psychological risks of living more in digital spaces than physical ones. And is it just going to become something that's needed as AI releases us from the need to go to work on a daily basis? So, Adam, welcome back. Hello, good sir. I'm not going to say we're excited today because we're always excited. We couldn't be more excited. But the metaverse, and we're not just talking metaverse as in Mark Zuckerberg's metaverse, but the metaverse in general, augmented reality, virtual reality, what all of that means, where it's at today, where it's going to go. Do we want to live there, or will it be good to put all the shit munchers in there so we can have no queues when we go to the beach?
Very nice. Well, these are the important topics that we need to unpack.
Absolutely.
But yeah, and then it's just like, there's a Matrix movie. Do we want to turn that into a documentary? I don't know.
We probably can now with VO3 already.
Nice. Okay. Well, that sounds perfect.
But imagine you could be complaining one day about modern world and someone just goes and gives you like a week in Tudor England, for example.
Yeah, or anywhere through history, because that could be probably jumping ahead a little bit, but that could be one of the amazing things with this kind of technology, that you put on a headset, or maybe things get more advanced in the future and it's kind of something else that seems even more realistic, but you could travel back to ancient Egypt. You could have a look at what was happening then, see the buildings as they originally were, completely immersively, and just go and take these two as a places through history, which could be amazing.
One thing I would hope is that you don't have the ability to smell what these places were like in the past, because I can imagine
London at certain times when people just had the buckets that they'd tip out onto the street.
I think anywhere at a certain time more than 100 years ago, pretty much.
Yeah, it's going to be pretty grim, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, even if it's just the industry and what's being burnt, and walking down peat chimney smoked streets covered in human excrement, and people that wash in a shared bath once every 7 days.
Yeah, because I guess that will be one of the things that they'll try and work on as well, so that everything is as realistic as possible. So it'll start with, well, if you're using an Apple Vision Pro or some kind of overpriced thing like that, whether that'll shrink down to contact lenses. But either way, the visual and audio aspects will get pretty quickly. But then will it then evolve to somehow doing smell or touch and things like that, which I guess would require some kind of neural interface?
Yeah, or some kind of mixing of chemicals to create various scents and smells. I mean, have you ever been to the National Fishing Museum in Grimsby?
Funnily enough, I've never been to Grimsby or the National Fishing Museum.
You've never been to Grimsby? You haven't lived, my friend.
Actually, I think No, maybe I tell a lie. I remember going somewhere around there that looked unbelievably grim, and I'm pretty sure that was Grimsby.
Yeah, yeah. I would imagine one of your previous bandmates from back in the day would have taken you to the lovely place that is Grimsby at some point.
Yeah,
I
because I
think.
think we went to Mablethorpe and possibly Grimsby all in one day. It was quite a whirlwind tour of the most beautiful places in England, really.
Decaying Victorian seaside towns. Yeah,
Which is
yeah.
kind of where I'm from. Yeah, I spent a few years living in a Victorian seaside town that just over time just gradually got worse and worse.
Yeah, East Coast. Yeah. Imagine you going back in virtual reality to a time where Grimsby was prosperous.
Yeah. And again, you don't want to smell that much fish, but I bet it was a really nice place at one point because a lot of places were in the UK, although they were actually thriving communities. And then it was only, I don't know when it would be sometime after the 80s, during the 90s, or was it during the 2000s it happened more, or did it keep accelerating? But things just seemed to get further and further downhill.
Yeah, yeah. And I mean, Grimsby was the world's biggest fishing port for quite some time in the 70s and 80s, I believe, which is saying something. I mean, the world's biggest fishing port is fairly incredible. Weirdly, Lincolnshire was actually home to some of another one of the biggest companies. That was companies, just in case that gets transcribed incorrectly. One of the biggest companies in the world in packaging called Limpac, because packaging is ridiculous business. Like you can make so much money. But anyway, we massively digress. So the reason that I mentioned Grimsby is even going there as a child to the National Fishing Museum. They had this floor that would go back and forward so that you could get that feeling of what it's like being on a fishing boat for days.
Oh,
so when you
a
stop,
museum like that in York,
Jorvik
well.
Museum, yeah, and Jorvik too, they have smell to their exhibits. Like certain exhibits, they pump in like a chemical or a perfume or however they do it, so that you can kind of smell what it would have been like at the time. And I think in both places it's fish actually, which in Grimsby, maybe it's the staff that were helping with. Somebody's got like a fallopian fungus going on. Donna.
It's always Donna. Sorry to all the Donnas out there tuning in.
I'm sorry, Donna. If your name's Donna, and no, never mind. Don't send me any photos. Email address is below. But anyway,
send a photo of Donna's kebab. Anyway,
so yeah, I think as the metaverse progresses, is like the ability to smell in there will be something that you want to be able to switch off and on. Because if you're visiting all of these places in history, but imagine how cool that is for learning, like you said, right? If you want to go and do like hey guys, we've got a project we want to do at school. It's the topic is the ancient Egyptians. You're all going to go back to ancient Egypt for 7 days and document your experiences and then come back and tell us what it was like.
It could be really incredible, yeah.
And if you don't get murdered by day 3,
you get an A+.
Yeah,
you pass with distinction.
You have all these kids coming back traumatized that they've been like put in the gladiator cage and stuff.
I mean, that could be an amazing thing for world leaders or something like that. You should maybe force them into this metaverse thing where all the experience is like the consequences of their own actions or some horrific war or something like that, and maybe they'd be less willing to get us into endless wars in the future.
So like when you get sent to The Hague for war crimes, if you're found guilty, you get sent into some metaverse version of the war that you created, endlessly experience it over and over again.
It's just an idea, just thought I'd throw it out there.
Yeah, because I mean, the other senses are obviously something that needs to be considered longer term. Like, how do you then start to experience the sensations of pain or whatever else, right? I mean, you know that for things like the metaverse and the way that the world is, there are certain industries that involve stimulation or whatever that are going to be thinking about how they can simulate certain things in this metaversal universe that we're going into.
And that'll be some of the biggest business going, I would imagine, in the sort of idea of metaverse.
Yeah, because we're not there yet in terms of that immersive experience. I know, again, it's because of us mostly being in developed places. I've seen videos where they'll go into some tribe and put them in virtual reality, and it like blows their mind. You see people falling over and all of this kind of stuff. So clearly, if you've not experienced technology very much and someone puts you in there now, it's going to be more immersive, but it's not quite there yet. We're talking about a future where you can pretty much feel like it's real, not just in vision and hearing, but in feeling, in smell, in every sense, really.
Yeah, and I mean, also you could have it in a way where you boost all the things, so in terms of how things look, feel, smell, but the idea of pain, you just don't have it. And so then it would become more appealing to be in the metaverse than the real world, because it would be an experience that's free from physical pain and maybe free from some kind of mental pain as well, because there'd be so much to distract your mind with.
No rejection, presumably. No, every whim, every idea, every possibility would pay out in some way in the experience that you were having. It's like, if you imagine you having a night out in there or something. It's like, let's go to this place. Oh, look, we're at the front of the queue. They're letting us straight in. Like, all of this stuff.
Drinks are free.
Yeah, but that kind of looks at metaverse as a place that is a solo experience. But actually, a lot of the way these things are being developed is that it's not a solo experience. So you're in this metaverse, but there are other human characters in the metaverse that are controlled by people. And I think that starts to bring us more into the darker side of this, because if you look at what's been done in the metaverse, you have to buy stuff.
Oh, right. It's something I don't know much about. So,
well, I'm glad we're doing an episode about it. Adam's done his research, clearly.
Hours and hours. So what do you buy in there?
So you can buy land, you can buy clothes, you can buy cars, you can buy all of the same things that you can get here, in the same way as when you play certain games that you can buy like extra armor or extra packages or all of this stuff. I think one of the most dystopian thoughts about this is everybody living in this metaverse, but you still being poor.
Yeah, which is exactly how it would be.
Yeah, it's like, I'm going to go to this metaverse and I'm going to get a yacht, and then you get there, they're like, yachts are 10 grand.
How much have you got? I've got like £7.99
and a button. And they're like, well, you can make more money in here. Oh, really? How do I make more money? Well, go to this mine and start digging, and if you find diamonds, you can sell them to us, and we'll let you trade in 100 diamonds for this yacht. Oh, fantastic. So you run off down the digital mine with your digital pickaxe. You have to trade the last 7 coins you've got for the digital pickaxe, and you start hammering away, and then you get your digital diamonds. When you're on the way back, you get digitally held up by some digital bandits.
Which could happen. I mean, because I think that's one thing. If you have the metaverse and people go in, and there's all these other people that are also in there, it's going to be just like with Facebook and things now, where sometimes someone takes someone's account and hacks it, or creates a similar account and pretends to be them. You could also have bots and NPCs, all these kinds of things, and you might not always know who's real, who's not, and all those kinds of things. And it would open the doors for another level of fraud, but just inside this virtual thing, at the same time as the one that you've got going on outside.
Yeah, like a double fraud. And then is it that each metaverse becomes connected, or is it that Facebook's got one and then X has got one and then, every other platform has one? So it's like which metaverse you decide that you're going to go into and be part of. And is each one of those communities going to be set with the standards and rules that you have in the existing networks? Is it going to attract the same kind of people? Like if you go into Threads, is it just going to be people trying to shut you down for everything you possibly say at any point in time?
Some angry people
Threads?
with blue hair and
Karen social media.
And then you go on the X version and it's loads of people from Texas shooting guns and
trying to sell you crypto coins about like the latest feud that's going on between Elon Musk and Donald Trump or whatever.
Exactly. I mean, the metaverse is something I hadn't thought about for a long time, because it seemed maybe about 4 years ago, in the last sort of crypto bull run, the metaverse was like, it seemed to be getting a lot of hype, and loads of people were buying coins that were like metaverse coins or related to it somehow. And then honestly, since then, I haven't really heard anything about it, really. I've barely heard it mentioned for probably a good couple of years or something like that. It seemed like it just, I don't know, maybe it's just what I get on my feed of news or social media or something, but I just never really came across it. I thought it was almost an idea that came along and then just went. But I guess the idea is still there and it's still being pursued. I don't know.
Yeah, what happened to the metaverse is that question, I suppose.
But then again, is it a bit like other companies in the past? So it's like Amazon started getting big. I remember there was a huge crash and the share price went really, really low. But then even if you'd have bought at the top at this point, by now your money would be worth so much, because it was just like an initial thing. So, oh no, it's flopped. But then give it 10 years and it's what everybody's using throughout the world in one way or another.
Yeah, I mean, so with Amazon, did it crash at the same time as the .com bubble burst?
I'm not sure.
Because I think that there was a huge impact across all businesses. And I think that's a similar thing to what's going on now with AI, really. There's all of these companies popping up here, there, and everywhere. And a lot of them are doing things that will be replaced by the bigger companies as time goes on. So
and some of it's just nonsense as well that barely even exists. So that was a thing in the .com bubble, where there was companies getting funding. We're just going, yeah, we're an internet company. We're getting all these huge amounts of funding from different people, and these companies didn't even have a website. And it was like, yeah. And so they all went. And I think AI, there's a lot of stuff like that going on as well right now, where if you launch some company and put AI in the title somewhere or at the end, it's like, all right, cool. Well, AI is the biggest thing. Throw money at it. And so I would expect some kind of pullback with the amount of money in AI, or some kind of crash at some point, just because I would imagine there's a hell of a lot of companies that aren't actually really making anything. They're just there to get some funding and then disappear.
Yeah, and I guess the metaverse hype was 2021. Generative AI was late 2022. So the spotlight of all of it would have moved away from these like horizon worlds into AI and super intelligence itself. And then I remember the VR headsets and stuff. Like my brother had is it an Oculus? Is that what it's called?
Okay.
And it was cool. Don't get me wrong. But it's like most people don't have the living room space to like go and put on this Oculus and the hands and stuff. And you're like knocking into shit, and they're not, it's like they're not quite there. And I know one of the statistics in the research I did before this, I did research today. Check this out. Or maybe I just did it a minute ago while we were talking. But global headset shipments fell like 10% again in 2024. So that's like 3 years on the road, where headsets.
I was just going to say, was that when we had like the Apple Vision Pro as well, and that just ended up being a flop? Because I think they wanted like $3,500 for this thing, which was cool in many respects, but it really wasn't worth the money. And so many people looked at it and went, no, that looks ridiculous. You're going to sit in a coffee shop with this thing on going.
Yeah. Yeah, if you're like moving your hands around like you're doing the YMCA. And also Meta itself, the reality labs, they burnt through $18 billion in losses in 2024. Mm-hmm. And their cumulative, their combined losses, cumulative losses are pretty much $70 billion. So this whole thing of it being, it's going to be the next internet, it never really showed up. And that meant that a lot of the big brands involved just shut down their operations, like Microsoft did. Disney got rid of all of its stuff in 2023. Apple has rebranded it to Vision Pro, but then stopped promoting it. So I think all of that, alongside what you mentioned with crypto and the land grabs of the whole metaverse NFTs, losing like 80% of people's money, has only really left it right now for gaming.
Yeah.
And then obviously enterprise gaming. So like looking at designs and buildings and all of these kinds of things.
It's one of those things where, as a concept, it is incredible. Maybe, I wonder if maybe companies pushed to make this thing, but it was possibly at the wrong time when the technology wasn't quite there, or maybe they just tried to make it in a way and people just weren't interested in it. And sometimes things just don't catch on. I don't know if it's something to do with the marketing or what, but it just doesn't grab people's imagination and attention.
Yeah.
It's just not interesting enough.
Yeah, it reminds me of those shoes you used to get with the roller skates in the bottom.
Oh, I always wanted some of those. They look awesome.
Yeah, right. But when they came out when we were young, they didn't really catch on. Like you saw, I had a pair, but they're like platform shoes as well. So they're like this tall on the heel and on the front with like two wheels underneath. Death traps, total death traps. No support in the ankles, just like pure, death trap.
Yeah, I can imagine, because it's not supported. It's like just your foot could just kind of easily sort of go, that's broken ankle or that's
exactly. Yeah, so they never really caught on. But then I remember when I was like in my 20s, they did catch on. So someone obviously like shelved them, been like, right, the world's not ready for trainers with wheels coming out of them right now. It's too soon. We're gonna wait. But then they rolled it back out like 10 years later or 12 years later, and it finally went nuts.
Yeah, and the same thing could be the case with the metaverse in some ways. And I guess companies have done quite a lot of research with it. They've done some trial runs. I think there are still companies running things that are moderately successful that people are using. Not very many, but some. But it could be this really amazing thing once it gets good enough and becomes appealing enough, and it could help a lot of people in many respects. But at the same time, it can do the opposite as well. And you can see, maybe this is a bit of a cynical point of view, but I can see why someone like Mark Zuckerberg is all over that kind of technology, because it's like, wicked, I love harvesting people's data. Step into my virtual world for so many hours a day and I'll harvest even more data from you and sell it to companies and sell you things you don't need. And
yeah, I mean, there's certain things like for me, I work digitally. Everything I do is digital and online. And even with my team, like I have my team, they're in the Philippines. I have some people here in Vietnam, and I trust them all. But because I don't put like screen tracking software or any of this stuff. But sometimes I'm like, I wish they would all start the day at the same time that I start the day, and we all sit together, and then I know when people are working and when they're not, but also can communicate with them. And if you imagine like the technology of Zoom being good enough that I can go and sit in a virtual office with those guys, and it's like, oh hey, how are you getting on with this thing? And it's like I can shout over to them, and it's like you're in the same room.
Yeah, it would be amazing. And yeah, you'd have everything banned. So it's like, right, so what you no, I want you to do something like that. You open your laptop and say like this, and they see it, and all that kind of stuff. And it could be incredible, really. So you could actually have this virtual office and go to work there, but even just for meetings and things like that, to interact with people around in like a boardroom around a table, and it's got to be just
like
really
imagine
cool.
designing your own office, and then it's like, okay, this is the room we do sales in. So when somebody wants your services, they come to your office, and they're like, it's like the waiting room. Receptionist, oh, Jack will be with you in a minute. He's just setting up the room. And then they like walk through the virtual door and open it, and it's all laid out in the way that I want it laid out and the way I want to come across, and you're dressed the way you want to look. And it's like, oh, nice to meet you. And it's like virtual handshake. I mean, that's awesome. Like, I would love that.
It's really, really cool.
Take the guys to a virtual strip club, give them all $1 bills.
Give them some virtual shots,
slamming virtual shots, yeah, and then you come out and you're back to sober, and it's like nothing ever happened.
Yeah, there's so many things like that could be really cool. You could have a similar thing for education, whether it's, I don't know, you could have it like a university could open its doors virtually to many more people, and you could just go and sit in a lecture or something like that, or whatever. There's all kinds of things, or there might be different teachers that you could go and have classes with, whether they were virtual teachers or real people being in that metaverse. Literally, sort of, you could be learning chemistry or something like that and actually be in a lab, and you're mixing chemicals and checking out different things, and it's really cool.
Yeah, I mean, even if you think about like driving tests or whatever, like every possible super technical thing that needs to be done, you can do it in this virtual reality world. It's like there's so much more that can be learned. You could, everyone could start learning how, if they're interested, how to fly planes. And then when you actually get on a plane, if there's like something wrong with the pilot or some shit going on, it's like, anyone on here know how to fly a plane? Yeah, I do. Look, here's how many hours I've got in the metaverse.
Yeah, or you could probably learn a load of different martial arts and something like that. So if the plane gets hijacked, you can go like Steven Seagal style and just save the day.
Yeah, exactly. But even you think about practicing public speaking. It's like you could go and walk out on a big stage with like thousands of people in front of you and have to be like, okay, presenting yourself, practicing, getting used to the way that you deliver whatever it is you're trying to deliver. I think the opportunities then for expandment would be huge.
Completely. And a similar thing with being on stage, it's like over the last, I don't know, over time, it's got more and more difficult for people to actually be musicians and actually have that as a career path, because everything's just got way too expensive. There's no music industry there like there was that could support you and help you become an artist or a successful band. So you could literally do a thing where you just do virtual gigs, and the band could go play in a place, but you have I don't know how the technology would work, but one way or another you'd have it so you could have an unlimited amount of people come and visit your show, come and see your show, and pay like $3 or something like that to get in. which
Yeah.
isn't very much. But if you got somehow managed to get 10,000 people in, then that's incredible. And it might be one of the few ways, in fact, that musicians in the future will be able to make a living, because they're getting nothing at the moment. There's no support from industry for anything that's original. And then everything else is just so expensive that musicians just can't afford to do tours and things like that because they don't make any money from it. And then there's nothing from CD sales because it's all on Spotify or whatever else anyway. So something in the metaverse could actually be the answer. And you could actually have a really thriving music scene where people are actually making money from it as well.
Yeah, and virtual bar sales on top.
Yeah.
So, I mean, there's a lot of potential to all of this, and a lot of it relies upon technology coming to the point where it can be good enough to sustain something like this. What about the other side of the coin? What about the dystopian nature of a metaverse? We kind of touched on it at the beginning, where you still have to pay for things in there. There's still an economy to it. How could it then be a bad thing for humanity? I guess it comes from the same way people get addicted to social media and want to spend all of their time living in these virtual worlds. Like, I sort of picture it where it's not exactly the same, but there's that episode of South Park where Eric Cartman and all his friends are playing Age of Empires, and they won't leave the screen. So he calls his mum in because he needs to go for a shit, and she just like holds a bucket behind him while he shits in the bucket. And it's like, you can sort of imagine this metaverse in a Charlie Brooker style, stuck in there trying to get points just to live, and not actually being allowed to live in the normal world anymore.
Yeah, because we're talking about a technology that's really powerful. Then it depends who's going to be in charge of that technology. Because obviously, if it's going to be like Mark Zuckerberg or whatever, then his version of it is just going to be an expanded version of Facebook, where it's just, instead of just this thing where you're scrolling through, it's just fully immersive.
Yeah, and I also think it's a solution to things that we've alluded to before, is like, in this future that we're going into, if we end up in a position where AI can do all of the economically viable jobs, that leaves decisions to make in, well, what do you do with all of the people that are left without work to do and without ways of earning money? And one of the options is you can give everybody a universal basic income, so that everybody has a certain amount of funds and money to live as they please. And as we said before, go to whatever resorts, whatever places they want, and enjoy life. And then obviously we end up in a world where all of the desirable places are busy with people all of the time, because everyone's got time on their hands and money to travel and technology to go everywhere. So we could believe that the world and the powers that be will usher that in and allow everybody to have this money. Or you could put everybody in rows and rows and rows of seats in their own virtual reality world, where they don't actually have to go anywhere and clutter up anything that is physical and existing, but they feel like they are living their best life and doing whatever they want. Or even if they're living the same kind of life but in the metaverse.
Yeah, it's interesting. And just, it's complete distraction. It's a complete way to just switch off and have people just floating around in this thing, not just completely separated from reality. And I don't know, but it's hard to think of it without the aspects of like a Black Mirror kind of scenario, because it does seem insane. I just yeah, I don't know.
Have you seen the episode of Black Mirror where when you're about to die, they upload you to a kind of metaverse?
No, I haven't, but I can imagine that's interesting.
Yeah, so you kind of get the choice as you're getting old and when you're coming towards the end of your life to pay for a service to be uploaded where your family can still come and visit you, but you just live whatever period of your life and time that you liked the most, and you can kind of revisit different time periods of your life and just live this endless computer existence, or you can choose death.
And also about existence of when you're uploaded. Maybe you don't need to wait till death. If with this technology, if it advances some more, people can just switch off. And also it's like, if it's going to be, so it's going to be what, like a virtual world, but it's more of based around social media, I'm guessing. And it's like, I was reading something the other day where the average person scrolls so much that it's so many meters of scrolling that it's taller than the Statue of Liberty, which is a lot.
That's ridiculous.
It's just going to be, people are already really addicted to smartphones and things like that. It's just going to add this extra layer and make it even more addictive, more appealing, and keep people engaged with it for longer. And I don't know, I think it could just get really, really bad for people's health, because it'll be probably not being very active, sitting in a chair with some goggles on, walking around this place and trying to show off to people or trying to get likes or whatever. And then you're going to have all the downsides of social media that you have anyway. I think it'll just be like that on steroids.
Yeah, and also we're not in a position, even with the technology, like you can imagine you get to a point in the future where you can have like a big ball installed, like a hamster ball, and you're in there like running around and moving around and stuff. So it feels like you are actually out in that world. But then people are still going to be like, oh, I could do with a sit down. Sitting mode activated.
Yeah, but it would be cool though. It's like, because you could, if you got friends in different parts of the world, like a group of you could all get together. You could go hiking in the mountains. You could go for a game of golf. You could go paintballing, whatever. The entertainment aspect could be like really incredible.
Well, and socially, because a lot of the things is now people don't get enough social time. They're not able to have that. And again, back to like the older people, if you're old and you've been put in an old people's home or whatever, and you don't see anyone very often, how much better would life be if you had this virtual world that you could kind of choose a time in your past that you want to go and look at, or a time that's a similar, not exactly what you lived, but the same year, the same whatever, and kind of have a simulation of it. You know, it's better than sitting around all day waiting for someone to call you or not, playing bingo or whatever with Janice, who don't remember like her ass from her elbow.
Yeah, I mean, that's a beautiful way to put it. But yeah, you're right. And I think one of the reasons, I mean, I'm not sure, obviously, I'm not a doctor, but I've heard that with things like dementia and Alzheimer's and things like that, there's like conditions, but also sort of losing your memory. It's also just not using, because you're not using your brain in some ways. You're not spending that time having new experiences, figuring things out, exercising the muscle that is your brain. And so probably for people as they age, it could be a really good thing, because you could have any number of different things in there that are kind of like testing you or teaching you new things or having new experience, keeping the world exciting. So it could be really good for some people as they age. And there would be the social thing as well, because probably one of the hardest things of when you get older is that as Christmases go by, you receive less and less Christmas cards, because more and more of your friends or family are dying until it's your turn. And and it's like, and so there's probably a certain loneliness for a lot of people as they get older. Maybe this thing with the metaverse, you could speak to people that were in a similar position. You could have, I guess you could have virtual friends if you wanted to, But you probably could just go out and experience more of a social life, which could be really good.
Yeah. I get less and less Christmas cards over time as I just have less and less friends.
Less and less people like you.
Basically, yeah. Either they don't like me, or I don't like them, or it's mutual.
Because you've moved and you didn't tell them the new address or changed phone numbers. You're not getting my new contact.
I always remember as a kid, like when I don't know if you can relate to this as well, but you look at your dad and you think, why doesn't my dad have any friends? It's like there might be the odd guy who phones from time to time and they have the odd conversation with someone, but in general, they just don't have any friends.
It is kind of interesting in a way.
It's not because they're all dead. I think just men have this thing as they get older, you just have less and less.
I think my dad was the same in some ways. And it's like, he's still got like a couple of friends and things. Every once in a while, they'll go have a coffee somewhere or something like that, but it's rare. And like the rest of the time, probably between the age of like about 40 all the way through, it's like, oh, well, I'm just happy. I'll go in the garage. I'll do some wood turning, things like that, go and make some things. And it's like, oh, I'm quite happy doing that. It's almost sort of kind of like going, well, I've met people before. I know what that's like. I'll still meet them again every so often, but
yeah, like I think there's definitely an episode for us to cover in the future there as to why do men get older and have less friends or even less new friends. Like I don't have space in my life for new friends right now. Occasionally I'll meet someone, like when I came back from the Philippines, I met someone in the airport and the guy was chatting to me loads. And at the end I could tell he was like, oh, let's exchange Facebook. I was like, oh, my flight's boarding, mate, so I'm going to go. It's nice to meet you anyway. And he was a bit like,
have a good flight.
Oh, and you could tell he was maybe 10 years younger than me or whatever. So he's still in that zone of, oh, maybe one day I'll be in Da Nang and I can come and see you. And he didn't say this, but I just could get that it was building up to that point. And then when I was like, oh, I'm going to go get on my flight now, mate. He was like, oh, okay, mate. See ya. I was like, yep. See ya.
It would be interesting actually to look into it and find the reason for it, because there will be some evolutionary reasons and various things, but it's much the same. It's like when I was sort of 20s, probably early 30s, it was like, oh, well, really sociable and like had a huge circle of friends or a few different circles of friends and would see people like a lot. And then over time, it's like that circle sort of just pretty much disappeared.
Yeah. So what does the metaverse look like for us?
Probably really peaceful because you'll just be in your own place.
I'm just going to see you in there.
There's nobody else there.
So you're the only person I talk to these days. It'll just be you, Brad, maybe a couple of other people.
Yeah.
And on occasion, when we've got time to go into the metaverse, I think it's one of those things. And maybe that's why it just didn't catch on in general, because people just don't have time to go and sit in a metaverse and for the amount of immersion that it takes to do anything. Because the whole point of it is that it's realistic, and things in realistic things take time. It's not like you can go and play a game, just play for like 20 minutes and enjoy it. Like if you're going into this metaverse and exploring and walking around, it's a big time commitment. And I would say most people are too busy just living their lives and trying to earn enough money to survive and spend time with their families and friends when they want to,
Yeah, it sounds like it's a big commitment in many ways, because if you're going to do that thing properly and you're going to go into it and you're going to have your avatar, and then your avatar is going to need to buy different things, you're committing some amount of money to it, and then you're going to have to spend time, because everything will be kind of like a game, I would imagine, or you have to do different tasks or get likes or whatever it may be, but to build your public profile and things like that. I would imagine something like Zoom, not maybe the same company, but someone will come out with something where it's a version of a metaverse like you were talking about for businesses to spend time with your team or business meetings and sales calls, well, you could make something absolutely incredible. But then at the same time, it's that thing, you're going to have to get people to invest in the tech. If they want to do it properly, they need to buy those headsets and things. And you might be able to get some cheap ones for like $800, but then they're going to go up to like $3,000 or something. It's a big investment, and it doesn't make it available for many people on the planet as a percentage.
Yeah, it almost needs to be the same as like when you sign up for the internet, although that's probably not the same anymore. But when you used to sign up for broadband or whatever, they come round and fit a free like modem or whatever it is, or a router, right? So it needs to be like that. If they're going to get mass adoption on something like this, it's like, well, we'll just come round. You sign up for like a 12-month contract at £30 a month or whatever, and then we'll give you the headset. And then that makes sense, you know? And if you're doing that on a company level, you can probably charge a bit more because people are like, well, do you know what? I want it for my company. I need it for my team members. Go and do it like this. So there is that aspect to it for sure.
Yeah. Which, yeah, that wouldn't be a bad way to do it. I think maybe that's part of the issue. It's like scalability. You need to find some way that people are going to get the tech, or do we even have the like tech that's good enough to run this thing in a realistic manner? I've seen some examples of it over the last couple of years where you just sort of go, that looks crap. I'm not paying money or spending time doing that. But again, the change with that could be just right around the corner. You could have something that's actually good. But yeah, can you scale it to enough people? Would there be a way to sort of adapt normal phones so you can put them in some kind of thing? I don't know.
A ski mask and an iPhone. Just like...
yeah, basically.
The Adamverse.
Only $37.99.
Yeah, can't afford the Metaverse? Get the Adamverse. $37.99. Temporally scripted merch. All over again. Yeah, and I think they're probably going to kill off the name Metaverse as a concept. I feel like enough money has been lost by investors into this. You imagine venture capitalists now, if they hear the word Metaverse, they're like, that cost me $100 million last year. I'm not putting anything in that.
Yeah.
So
no, completely.
Regardless, it's going to be called something else, virtual worlds or whatever. I think the Metaverse.
It's not a very catchy name anyway, is it really? It just sounds a bit, I don't know. It doesn't spark some kind of some inspirational quality. It just sort of it sounds all right.
Yeah, and I mean there was that thing a while ago called Second Life as well, wasn't there, where people were playing? Yeah. And I don't know if that's still a thing or not. I can have a quick look to see if that's still a thing. But I think all of it sort of lost its momentum. Which is, I don't know why we just spent 45 minutes boring our audience about something that's totally irrelevant. But yeah, I mean, that whole Second Life, that for me was like what you would think a metaverse would become.
Yeah. I remember reading about this a couple of days ago. Is it 25 million users, something like that? I think that they still have. I'm not sure.
Which is nothing, really, is it?
Out of 6
it's not
really nothing.
Yeah, so it seems like it is still a thing, but the website itself only very, very slowly loads. Like people with zero life outside of the internet are living
It's not a second life. This is first life to them.
Who's going and like drinking coffee with their imaginary friends in Second Life at this stage. Our affiliate link is in the description.
Yeah. Don't forget to sign up while you can.
Yeah, don't forget to sign up while it still exists. We're only joking. There is no paid promotion in this video. We don't want to get ourselves limited for the monetization that we're on our way towards. So, well, I think that wraps us up, Adam. So the metaverse.
I think it does, yeah. But it's sort of a dead end in many ways.
51 minutes of your lives that you'll never get back. But we have fulfilled an obligation to the YouTube algorithm, as it was one of the suggested video topics that we did. So hopefully they'll give us a kickback. We'll get, some traffic. People will come along, watch this and think, oh man, I don't want to watch any more of them. But
I think that's exactly how it will be.
Yeah, but joking aside, I feel like it is something that's inevitable at some stage. This virtual reality universe is going to come, especially given that people are not going to have stuff to do with AI coming in and taking out 80% of the jobs that exist today. So I think it will come back, but it won't be called the metaverse, and it's certainly something that we can expect, maybe with Neuralink coming into our skulls near you soon. So next time we're going to talk about health and wellness for middle-aged men such as ourselves. Adam and I have implemented various things into our lives, some that have worked, some that have not, and some that keep dragging us back to our old way of living before we started trying to be healthy. So next week's episode is going to be a series of punishments you used to get as a child that now as an adult you strive for as the perfect routine. And I'm excited to give you guys some advice, some things that have worked for us, some things that haven't, and whether or not eating once a week is the way to living to 100. So until the next time, Adam, it's been a pleasure as always.
It has indeed. See you next time, folks.
Don't forget, like, subscribe, and we promise we won't talk about the metaverse ever again.